Welcome to Life Mastered, the podcast, where high achievers and ambitious souls come for the kind of support that fuels both inner growth and outer strength. This is your space for real tools and deep truths, for meeting life's greatest challenges with grace, resilience, and self-connection, and also expanding into your next level of purpose. I'm Molly Claire, your host, master coach, mentor, and guide, because life mastery is not about checking boxes. It's about how you meet yourself in every moment along the way. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's podcast episode. It is a candid interview with my dear friend and colleague, Kris Jones. And I wanted to do this interview with her because part of the premise behind Life Mastered is the idea that life mastered is not a life of perfection. Life mastered means we are in it. We are leaning in. We are continuing to learn the lessons we need to learn. We are putting one foot in front of the other, and we are allowing it to be messy, which can be challenging, right? So I'm so excited to share this interview with you. One of the things that really stood out to me in this conversation with Kris is just how isolating experiences that we have in life can be, whether that is the external inputs that are creating that isolation, that sense of isolation for us, or whether it is our internal workings that are really causing us to feel isolated because of what's swirling within us. And I think this is really worth thinking about because the truth is that every single one of us experience feelings of isolation. And I just want to tell you that you're not alone in that isolation, as ironic as it is. And there can be a lot of power in those times of isolation because of what we can create within it. So I hope you love this interview as much as I enjoyed this conversation with Kris. Before we start the interview, I have two really important announcements to make. Number one, you're going to be hearing more about this, but I am releasing a book this month that I have co-authored with 12 of my master coaches. The book is called She Rises: Insights and Wisdom from the Women of the Masterful Coach Collective. And here in the show notes and on my website, you can sign up to be the first to know to get a killer deal when the book comes out. And you're really going to support us in moving this powerful work forward. So check that out and sign up and get ready to hear more about that in the coming weeks. The other thing that I want to let you know is that I have a retreat I am doing this fall, and I have offered it up to my clients first. And now it is open if you have been following me and you love this work and you're interested in spending some time together in an intimate setting. This retreat is open to you. The link is also here in the show notes. You can always email my team@mollyclaire.com. Send an inquiry about it. It is going to be me and the amazing Melanie Fay running this retreat together. It is called the Deep Reset Retreat, and trust me when I say it is going to be phenomenal. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this interview with the amazing Kris Jones. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Life Mastered, the podcast. You are going to love today's conversation. I am sure of that. You know, this podcast is really about understanding what does it really mean for us to master life. We know it's not about checking boxes. It's really about being real with ourselves and how do we lean into and face the very real challenges that come our way. And today I wanted to have a conversation with one of my good friends and colleagues, Kris Jones. Hi, Kris. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, hello. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's so fun to have you here. And the reason I wanted to bring Kris, because you've probably heard Kris on the podcast before. She is a brilliant copywriter. She does specializes in story brand copy. She's a brilliant businesswoman. She and I are in a mastermind group together. She's come and taught my clients and worked with many of them. So she's a brilliant, beautiful human being, brilliant businesswoman, and underneath and behind the scenes for Kris, just like all of us, there have been some pretty significant challenges in life. And I asked Kris if she'd be willing to come and talk a little bit about hers, and she said yes. So here we are. So, um, so Kris, just quickly tell us. I know I kind of touched on it, but professionally, business wise, tell a little about your business, and then we'll talk about Jude, your son.
So I work with coaches, mostly coaches and consultants who are client based. So, really, anyone that works with clients. And I help them tell their story online, on their website, on their social media, anywhere they show up online and in person. It's really important to have a clear and compelling story that you tell about your business. And when I talk about story, that can mean a lot of things to different people, but the work I do is really about crafting a narrative that invites your potential clients into a story with you, a story where you play the character of the guide, aka the Yoda or Mr. Miyagi, and your clients are really the hero of your story. And when you tell your story in this way, you get more clients because people resonate with you. They can envision what it's like to work with you. And also, you get to have more confidence because you have the words to communicate what you do and the value of it. And when you can do that, not only do you feel more confident, but you can start to charge more for what you do because
Hmm.
the value comes through and you become known for solving a very important problem and you become memorable, right? And that's half the battle as a coach is just can people remember what you do? So
Hmm.
we really dig deep. Your story is inside of you. And the work that I do is really, I call it we mine for gold. How do we dig that story out from inside your head and your heart and polish up those golden nuggets and then allow you to show up in your best, most confident self and
Hmm.
charge what you're worth and get to work with the people you love and work with people that value what you do. It's
Hmm.
such a gift. It's like it's a great ripple effect, but
Yeah.
ultimately it allows you to focus on the work that you love and not spend so much time week after week, year after year marketing your business. We set you up with tools that kind of do that on autopilot so you can
Hmm.
focus on your client work and the things that really matter to you. So
Hmm.
that's the work that I do. I've been doing this work now 23 years. I started way back when with bigger companies like Nike and Adidas, and Jeff Bezos was even a client of mine at one point in time.
Hmm.
But my heart is really with people that are like me, coaches, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs,
Hmm.
people that are passionate about what they do that have often overcome this problem themselves, and then now their purpose is to help other people overcome it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's been so fun because, of course, as friends and in our mastermind, you know, I get to know about some of the incredible people that you're helping and their stories and what a gift to be a part of it. And Kris, I mean, you're so good at what you do. It's like I feel like some of your strengths that I always know, okay, when I go to my mastermind group and I'm asking for things, right? Kris, you're going to get cut right to it. You see clearly, you express things clearly, and you help to keep things simple. Um, so anyway, needless to say, you're great at what you do. You're great at what you do. And on the personal side, you're also great at what you do, but sometimes the personal side can feel a bit messy sometimes. So Kris is a single mom of Jude who has a nervous system disability, ADHD, and a lot going on. And yeah, we're here to talk about this today. And I remember it was probably, well, it was like a little over a year ago as we were heading into this last summer when things were really difficult. And, it's like, um, it's been really incredible for me to watch Kris and be with Kris in her very real struggle in her personal life with managing everything and to see how things have shifted. And I've seen how she's faced these things. So we're going to talk about it. So Kris, tell us a little bit more about Jude.
Okay, I am a single mom to Jude, and he is 7.5 right now. I am a single mom by choice, which just means that I went through IVF. I got pregnant. I did it on my own. I wasn't partnered at the time. And I was just like, I really want to be a mom and I'm going to do this. And I am so glad I did. Definitely has been way harder than I ever imagined it to be.
Yeah.
Um, but thankfully, I was naive enough to actually move forward with it. And I am partnered now, which is wonderful. But those first 6 years of Jude and I together, I was not partnered. And it was just the two of us. And I mean, the COVID was going on. And I
Oh my
was
gosh.
really like, I was really noticing, even from a young age, that Jude just wasn't like other kids. Like, even when I found a daycare for him, he was about a year and a half, 2 years old. And I thought, how's he going to navigate daycare? Like, he's going to destroy this place. He,
Hmm.
he just wasn't at all, I mean, most toddlers are not go with the flow, let's be honest. But this was like to another level.
Hmm.
And so we did find like a Montessori school for him, and he was able to go, but it was always a struggle. I was always getting notifications from the school, and they were always um, telling me that he was struggling and that they were struggling with him. And we started, doing OT at school, occupational therapy, which is a common
Hmm.
thing for a lot of kids who have processing issues or have trouble with transitions, or really fundamentally just have a problem staying regulated. And
Hmm.
and so we started there, and then things just kind of amplified and got worse. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to find a doctor who can help me understand what's going on
Yeah.
for him. And
Yeah.
this is about like tail end of COVID. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there is like a mental health crisis going on with pediatrics, meaning it's really hard to find a provider. Most providers aren't taking on new clients or patients. And if they are, there's a really long wait list that can be up to a year. I tried to get him evaluated, and I talked to an evaluation group, and they were like, yeah, we're a year out. It costs $4,000 to get evaluated, and unfortunately everywhere you call, it's a year-long wait list no matter where you're going.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with him and what he needed and how he needed to be supported. And so just that phase was really time consuming and really frustrating, and I felt pretty helpless. He was such a handful. And so, with that, people, instead of kind of coming toward him and toward me, they stayed away. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like he was just so hard. And I don't fault anyone for that. Like, he couldn't stay regulated, and he couldn't do the normal things like, hey, let's go get ice cream, or let's go, on a walk. Or it was just, he would essentially, with the nervous system disability, which a lot of people call PDA. It's not super well known, but it's becoming more prevalent. It's just, anything can push the child into a panic attack. And the panic
Hmm.
attack looks like a major meltdown. So we would spend a lot of time like, I stripped out our bathroom so he couldn't ruin anything in the bathroom or throw anything or hurt himself. And he and I would go into the bathroom when he would have a meltdown, and we would just being there together and
Mm-hmm.
let it run its course. And I
Mm-hmm.
never left him alone with those big emotions, but I did have to create a safe environment for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which
and
is really so hard, right? It's
yeah,
so hard. You
yeah,
really, I think these situations when you have, when you have a child like that, and I didn't have a child quite the same as Jude, but I remember one of my kids having, really explosive behaviors and having to just completely hold him down so that he wasn't hurting anyone. And it's like, it really requires every bit of you to show up and be there and do whatever it takes to be with them. And it is not easy.
it is
Yeah.
true
Yeah.
survival mode for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was happening on a daily basis for sure. And then if people wanted to come over or get together, I would have to really warn them. Like I just need to let you know this could happen. I might have
Yeah.
to disappear for an hour at any given time, or you might come over. Like we were at the beach for a while and I had a friend come to visit and I was like, you might be on your own. Like you and your daughter might be
Mm-hmm.
on your own because Jude and I might have to go tend
Mm-hmm.
to whatever is going on for him. So,
Mm-hmm.
you really do learn who your people are and
Mm-hmm.
who shows up for you in those difficult times. And yeah, it was hard. I needed help and I think most people were uncomfortable with his behavior, understandably, and just didn't know how to help. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I thankfully, like, I found a nanny who could handle it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember
And
like this moment being like, his name is Aiden, and I was like, Aiden, I'm so sorry. Like, I know this is really hard. And I'll never forget, he goes, he actually kind of reminds me of myself when I was that little. And I was like,
um
it was like he was 21 at the time, and I'm like, what a wise, compassionate young man
mm-hmm.
I found. So
Mm-hmm.
he's still in our lives, and
What a
I'm
gift.
grateful. Yeah.
Well, and as you're talking, I'm thinking, and everyone listening here, maybe you don't relate to Chris's exact situation, right? Or even a similar situation in terms of, a child that you're struggling with. But I think we all face these things in our life that can move us to feeling a bit isolated and lonely in the struggle that we're having. And I
Mm.
think especially, I don't know, tell me what you think about this, but I think especially um, as maybe the person who, right, we're the leader in our own life and we're holding things together. And right there you are running the business, doing all the things. You appear so capable to everybody and so strong that I think that it almost I think people can get the impression from that you're fine and don't need the help. And meanwhile, you're really feeling isolated and on your own and overwhelmed.
And pretty helpless, like,
Yes.
really trying to get help, trying to get medical attention and support and guidance. And I tried a lot of different parenting approaches. And I was like, parenting approach, book after book, coach after coach, like nothing is working for this child. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's pretty defeating,
Yeah.
and confusing and very overwhelming and really tiring. I mean, it it was so much. It was so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And I have so much I'm such a better person for it, right? It like
Yeah.
deep
Yes.
when you experience that level of or that
Hmm.
depth of difficulty and pain and sadness and disappointment and it's not gone or better in a week. Like we're talking about like a few years of this.
Right. Right. Right.
And so, how do I figure out how to thrive and live my life, and without like, this is going to sound, it's not quite accurate, but without like letting him bring me down, like without,
Hmm.
it doesn't serve either of us if we both self combust.
Right, right, right. Well,
Right.
and as you're talking, I feel like this is I want to really lean into this because we're all going to have big challenges, I think. And I think those of us who are like we're these ambitious souls, right? We we feel that sense of purpose and drive, and for whatever reason, right? Sometimes it expanding requires some of these growth opportunities. And so we will face them. And so it's like when we're presented with this, we can allow it to take us down, which we've all experienced feeling that sometimes. We can try to turn a blind eye and, right, like try to disconnect from it, which we've all probably tried and experienced, but doesn't work so well. And then, what I believe is the path that lends itself to not only the most growth, but the most connection, self connection, connection with others, and also that ability to, using that word that you just said a few minutes ago, to really thrive, right? To be able to thrive within what is seemingly impossible. And that path, in my opinion, is um, the the leaning into uh, what within me needs to be cared about, attended to, taken care of, right? What do I need to do with me in order to be okay here for me and for them,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I
Right.
know you've done that. I know you've done that many ways and continue to, right? It feels like that's so talk a little bit more about that. Your path within this of um really working with your own nervous system and your own regulation and all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's pretty liberating when start to recognize how in tune your children are to your own um sense of, calm or anxiety, right? And so I was like, okay,
Hmm.
I can't control him. Like I feel very,
Right.
this is somebody different from me, right? He has his own individual path and journey that I don't have a lot of control over. Like as parents, I think it's really humbling to realize that, especially with a child like Jude, who's, very, um, you know, pretty defiant and very much his own person. And so I kind of turned the spotlight back to myself.
Hmm.
Always continuing to like keep digging and keep working on how to support him better. And I did eventually find a psychiatrist and a therapist and some medicine and some practices. Like Jude and I do tapping every night before bed, and
Hmm.
he asks to do that. So there are tools that we've used that are great. But what helped me is just to be like, okay, I need to focus on cleaning up my own side of the street, and how can I support myself and my nervous system and let go of maybe old stories or energy that is not supporting the situation. And that felt really good to me. Like, okay,
Hmm.
what kind of daily practices can I do? What's something I can plan for the week to give me joy? I like during the thick of this, I started meditating. I did some ketamine therapy. I was doing a hot bay practice. So when he would go to bed, I would kind of do little things that would keep me
Hmm.
centered and grounded and quiet myself a little bit. And those practices have just stayed with me because they've been a real life raft.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much wisdom in that because I think, when we have these situations that seem like they could take us down or that seem to be requiring everything from us, it can be easy to um sort of feel a victim to that or really believe that we don't have time to do these things to care for ourselves, that our well being has to be on the shelf. And the exact opposite is true, right? And that's where you're living, breathing proof of that, of saying, like, I have to be okay. I actually, no, it's not that, oh, this means my well being happens later. It means more than anything, my well being comes first right now.
Right.
Right
Exactly.
now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, and there's I mean, it's interesting because in this situation, we're talking about you working, cleaning up your side of the street, right? Working on your old stories, traumas, regulating your nervous system,
Mhm.
knowing what a very real impact that's going to have on him. And I think a lot of people don't realize that even kids in general, right? Like Jude's, special considerations aside, kids need us to help them co-regulate. They just do. And
Mhm.
so here we see this very real, practical, tangible example of you being able to do that and it having an impact on him.
Yes.
And this is true in general for all of us, right? Everyone listening here. If you're not taking adequate care of yourself and cleaning up your side of the street and attending to your mental, emotional, physical, and nervous system needs, then I think we're all really missing out on bringing something so much better to the people around us, right?
Totally. Totally. And
Yeah.
we can affect that. We're in control of that. And these little kids that we have, whether Jude is very, very highly sensitive. All kids are, all kids at those younger ages are just they're little sponges and they listen to
Mhm.
our breath. Like I remember when I would take a deep breath, Jude would say, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I didn't
Yeah,
even know I took it. I just
right.
a deep breath. And he's constantly making sure that
Mhm.
I'm in a good place because that's his sense of safety.
That's right. And one thing that also came to my mind a little bit ago in this conversation is, you know, how challenging it can be when we're in a situation um, where we feel like others are probably judging us, right? No matter what we're facing. Because, I was thinking about for myself as a mom when I would, be trying to help my kids with something they were dealing with, whether it was anxiety or whatever. And everyone has so many opinions about it, right? And same thing I think about, going through my divorce. Like just as you're facing things, people can have a lot of opinions. And whether we like it or not, it can be pretty hard, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and you can feel it. And there are comments, that I
Yeah.
hear like, well, Jude runs the show, like things like that where people
Mm-hmm.
think like if I had a kid like that, I'd smack him on the butt and tell him no. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
that actually doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like if I tried everything, I obviously never like hit my kid, but like if there was some approach or tactic that would have helped him. I tried it and it didn't work, but it's very easy for other parents just because they're parents to feel like they're experts in parenting, but they're not experts in parenting your child, right? You can't there are other comments that just people make like they're there's judgment underneath them, but they're relatively harmless and they're not intentional, but like
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we just made our kids like eat what was on the table. And just some kids are more compliant than others. Some kids go with the flow, some kids follow directions, and some kids just do not. Like Jude would be somebody who would rather starve for 3 days than
Mm-hmm.
eat if I was gonna force him to eat something, like, he wouldn't do it, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's this way of being as a parent, probably globally, where once you have a kid, then you're the expert on all kids, and I just so this whole journey has been so humbling in that way, and I have, like, really leaned into the fact that, oh my gosh, every kid is so different, and I cannot ever, ever have any judgments about other
Hmm.
parents. Like, I don't. After what I've been through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
but it is, it sucks, like, to know that you're being judged, or to know that, um, people aren't wanting to hang out with you because your kid,
hmm.
like, as somebody who in my life, like, has I wanna be liked, everybody does.
Of
Everybody wants to
course.
be accepted, everybody wants to belong, and then to be moving through the world with, somebody who, like, doesn't that's not a priority for Jude. Like, he wants to be true to himself, and he
Hmm.
navigates in the world in such a different way, and just to feel the judgment, and to feel um the people maybe pulling away rather than leaning in, is one of the most painful parts.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I think that, as you're talking about it, I'm just thinking about this sort of nuanced way that we navigate that, where I think it's really important for all of us to remember that when we perceive, receive, experience judgment, that it is actually going to be very painful. And I think there is a sense of grieving. It brings up a lot of fear, right? It's impossible for it to not bring up those emotions for us. And I
Mm.
think that, as much as we think it could be easy to just shut them out, Kris, as you and I know, and as we use the tapping process and everything, it's really important to give those emotions some space,
Mm.
because you cannot ignore them and have them just go away, right?
No,
And we
no,
can't control what other people think either. So,
no, no. I
mm,
talked to my nurse practitioner earlier today, and she goes, "It's like a garbage contract." Is that what it's compactor? Garbage compactor. Like, the emotions go in, if we shove them down, they get mushed down, and then more stuff comes in, and then it gets compacted on top of that. Like, you have
yeah,
got to let this stuff move through you and
yeah,
release it for sure. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. And so it's kind of like, I think about, for those of you listening, whether it's with regard to a situation, as a parent, or, just that place in your life where maybe you're struggling and also feeling the sense of judgment. I think the space and place to understand how very human it is to feel sadness and grief and to not like that. And at the same time, continuing to take steps to lean into, um, you know, showing up the way that you want to, and really releasing trying to control what other people think, right? Like, one of the things I've always thought is, like, the people that are judging me, they don't have to live my life. They're
Right.
not the ones. They're not the ones in my very shoes, right? In this marriage, or in this life, or they're not the ones. And so they can judge things all day long, but until you're standing where I am, they don't know.
They don't know. Nobody does. And it's honestly a gift. Like, I think, I've grown up in Portland, Oregon my whole life. And so, like, over the years, you collect more and more and more friends. And ultimately, like, the circle of people that can get, like, mine was quite big, and what Jude did for me is he shrunk it down, and that might sound like a negative thing, but it was such a gift, because you really identify who are your real people, like, who are the real people. You can't manage more than a handful of really close friendships anyway,
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
now I get to really invest in the people that have an understanding and a compassion and a lack of judgment because they
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so I'm really grateful for it. And ultimately, like it forced me to um create a lot of boundaries around my work. And that
Mhm.
like the work that I do now, the way I deliver my offer is very contained. It's like within a 30-day period, and I have clear lines around what I deliver and what's beyond that, and that would have never ever happened had I not been
Mhm.
through this with Jude. So
Yeah, so talk.
ultimately, like, it's more sustainable for me, all of it long term.
Yeah, yeah, what a gift, right? To force you into that simpler, more sustainable. So yeah, talk a little bit about that for you, because I know, you know, many listeners, no matter if they, own a business or whatever, that we all can feel that struggle of being pulled between business, work and personal life.
Mhm.
Um, Talk a little bit about what that was like for you in particular in the thick of it of,
Yeah.
of being a mom and having Jude and your business.
Yeah. I mean, I, ultimately it forced me to ask the question, what's the biggest problem I can solve in the shortest amount of time?
Mm,
And prior to that, like I am a writer, I'm a designer, I can do a lot of things. You want me to design your trade show booth? I can do that. But I
mm,
don't talk about that stuff because I honed in on the way I can move the needle in the biggest way for my clients while also doing really tuning into what feels fun and effortless for me to deliver. And then ultimately, I came up with this idea, and I had the help of another coach, Neil Williams, who was a student of yours. And
mm-hmm,
she helped me, as coaches and consultants, we really are inside of our own bottle trying to read that label that can only be read from the outside. And Neil helped me read my own label. And so we crafted this offer, the first version of it, which was all about telling your story specifically on your website.
mm-hmm,
And I took a few clients through it just to kind of proof of concept, and it worked, and it kept working, and I kept,
mm-hmm,
honing the offer, and ultimately what it allows me to do is gather the information I need from my client, take that information, write their story, but I do that on my own time. So I can do that any given time. And that's the
mm-hmm,
ticket to all of this as a mom. Like if you can get the work done on your own time and your own schedule, you can do it. There's always little windows of an hour here, 30 minutes here. And so I had the freedom there. And then I would meet with my client for a 90-minute, real focused, deep, intensive.
mm-hmm,
And that's really the bulk of the work that we would do collaboratively. And then ultimately I hired an assistant who was able to just take care of the communication with my clients. So like those little
mm-hmm,
details didn't get dropped, and I could really hone in on my zone of genius, know that she's got my back with kind of client management and communication. And so the way it looks right now is really very similar to where it started. And that this 90-minute collaboration call is like where all the magic happens. And there's
mm-hmm,
prep work prior to that, and there's work that I do after that, but that's all on my own time. And then my clients just get these incredible results, and it's so delightful. And I'm always just like, I've taken hundreds of people through it by
mm-hmm,
now, and it always works. And sometimes I get the question, like, what if my business is an anomaly? Or what if, like,
mm-hmm.
because I have two different types of clients, like, how is this going to work? And I'm like, it always works.
It always works.
I can't tell you how or why, but it just always works.
Mm,
And so it's been a real delight. And then
mm,
I know that I only have the bandwidth to work with two clients per week. And so
mhm,
I cap my week off after I
mhm,
have two clients booked for that week. And I'm booked out right now through or till early October. So
mhm,
it's
mhm,
great. I mean, it's such a joy. It's like
mhm,
that's the other thing about like navigating this path with Jude. My work became such a happy place. It was such a respite, right? It wasn't another thing that depleted me.
mhm,
It was like this place I could go and accomplish things and be creative and have deep connection with my clients and
mhm,
really truly help them and really move the needle for their purpose and their dream. And so that was honest to God in hindsight, like my work during that time was a real lifeline for me.
mhm, mhm. Oh, I love that. And I relate to that. I relate to that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is such a gift to be able to do work that's meaningful and lights you up. And it's so interesting because when you said that, I've talked with several clients over the years that feel guilty that their business is kind of an escape from their personal life because they think that that's bad and that's wrong. And the truth is that life is challenging and different areas of our life are more challenging at certain times than others. And I just think anytime we can have something that is bringing in positivity and, again, like that creativity, that growth, that lighting you up, I just think it's healthy for all of us and better across the board. So, anyone listening, if you feel guilty that any one area of your life feels like reprieve or, just let's not do that anymore,
Let it
right?
go.
Just
Yeah, let
appreciate.
it go. Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been such an awesome conversation. Kris, I would love to hear just kind of any, you know, final words like that you would share to someone who's, maybe struggling either with a child or something, behind the scenes that's really feels like it could take them down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think it can be helpful to just remind yourself that life is such a mixed bag and nobody gets through it unscathed. Like nobody. This whole journey is we don't sign up for this life experience to um skate by, right? Like of course we want to have joy and of course we want to do things that feel good. And the reality is like there's like three different categories of life. I heard this a long time ago and it just popped into my brain. There's like health related stuff, there's financial and work related stuff, and then there's relationship related stuff. Like that includes family, children, husbands, wives. Um, and essentially everyone's struggling at any given time in one of those areas, right?
Mhm,
It's just what we sign up for. And
mhm,
somehow, like, I found it comforting to know that other people were struggling. You know, when I was
mhm,
going through my struggle, I was like, you know, this is my challenge right now. And other people are in maybe a real difficult marriage, or other people are trying to figure out how to make ends meet or find meaningful work. And 40 hours a week ish, or however much you work, that's a lot of hours a week to do something that doesn't feed you and that doesn't fill you up. And so I feel really grateful that that was a respite for me and that
mhm,
I could really um, use that as a buoy to keep me aligned meaning and purpose while I navigated this path. And I do want to share, like, Jude has come so far, um, and he has found a good place within his own skin. Like, he's enjoying his life, and we did ultimately, like, he is taking medicine to help him stay regulated. And that is something I never thought I would be open to. Like, I was all about,
Mhm.
um, I don't know, kind of hippie. There's a hippie side to me that, like,
Mhm.
that when your kid needs help, you just keep working on it until they get the help they need. And that's where we landed. Medicine, this incredible book that I read called Raising Lions, which hopefully you'll get to talk with the author of that book at some point. Um, I just never gave up when it
Mhm.
came to him. And after years, it has really paid off. And he's able to go to camps now. He was never able to go to camps. Like, a couple years ago, I was getting calls that he had demolished the camp room. He was eloping, running away. Like, it was, I don't take anything for granted anymore.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm so proud of where he is, and the little things, like, I just never take them for granted. I'm just celebrating the wins,
Yeah. Yeah.
time, because
Yeah.
I know the other side of that. And
Yeah.
so we've come a
Because
long
he's
way.
at camp right now, right? School of Rock camp.
He's at School
Yeah.
of Rock, yeah, playing
Oh.
what he calls keys. And so what's your instrument? Keys, which is a real rock and roll term for piano,
Mhm. Mhm.
keyboard.
I love it.
So, yeah, he's at camp. He's having fun. We're about to go on a big vacation next week. And so
That's
um
awesome.
he's a lover. Like,
He's
he
so
has
darling.
so much love for me as his mom, and that can come through now, and that wasn't accessible to him before. So he's,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, got a lot of love for his mama.
Yeah. Yeah. So great. Well, I want to just highlight a couple things as we close up, and then I'd like for you to tell people where they could find you if they're interested also in connecting with you professionally.
Yes.
Um, but as we're wrapping up, I think some of the things I hope that everyone can take away from this is really remembering and realizing we all struggle with big things, whether people know it or not. And I think that we often compare our internal experience, the emotions, the struggles, the despair with what we see on the external of someone else, right? The exterior success. And so we've just got to remember that everybody struggles. No one is exempt from it. And I think, I can say, as Chris's friend, some of the things that I've seen in you, in her, and as has been evident here, are, some of these keys to navigating it well, which are number one, staying the course, right? Staying the course with running my business, leaning into what he needs, not giving up. There's something so powerful about staying the course. Another thing that really stands out is that leaning into self, right? Okay, what's going on for me within this? How do I make sure I'm well rested? I'm well nourished in, mentally, physically, all of those ways. Another huge, huge key to success. And then also, I think just as it kind of just happened for you that you had this joy, not just happened for you, you created your business, right? But you finding that joy and reprieve in your work. And I think for all of us, it's really good to remember when we're in the thick of it, where and how are we getting reprieve? Where and how are we having that joy? Because I think it really becomes like a buoy for us. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so true.
So,
Yeah.
okay, Kris, if someone's interested in finding you, following you, where can
Yeah,
they do that?
it- pretty much, if you're interested in learning more about me, you can go to my website, which is reddoorstories.com. REDDOOR stories.com. And you can learn about my main offer there, which is all about signature story selling. And then there's also a freebie there, which is called How to Write Compelling Copy in 5 Minutes Flat. So that will give you kind of the fundamentals of how to tell your story for free. I also have a private podcast there that I do a lot of teaching in, and I have my own podcast called From Click to Client, which Molly is going to be on soon.
Yes, that's right. That's next up. So awesome. And of course, I've interviewed Kris on this podcast when it was the Masterful Coach podcast a couple of times. So go check out those episodes. And thank you so much, Kris, for being here and sharing this with us. So
Thank you for
awesome.
having me. It was really fun to talk about it.
Yeah, so great. All right. Thanks, everyone. And I'll talk with you next time. Bye. Thanks for being here and for investing this time in you. Keep showing up. Keep meeting yourself with compassion. That's truly what life mastery is all about. If you loved this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And I would be honored if you would take the time to leave me a review. This ensures that this important work will get in the hands of more people. And if you're ready to take this work deeper, join me at mollyclaire.com where you can find all of the ways we can work together. I'll talk with you next week.